What if your future self was already whispering to you, shaping the path you think you choose freely? What if destiny is not a straight line, but a spiral, turning inward and outward in folds of time? Before we dive into the paradoxes, the possibilities, and the pulse of quantum time, remember to like and share this journey, because in sharing, you bend the timeline just a little more toward the miraculous. Somewhere between the ticking of a clock and the silence of a dream, time becomes strange. Not linear, not obedient, not the servant of logic we pretend it to be. Time loops, time folds, time listens. And in that strange pliability lies the key to a question too radical for most to consider. Can you manifest not from your present into your future, but from your future into your now? In the hidden chambers of theoretical physics, time is not a single river but a quantum field, a trembling lattice of probabilities, coexisting outcomes, suspended decisions. According to quantum mechanics, particles can influence each other across time, not just space. Retrocausality, the ghost in the machine, suggests that an event in the future can ripple backward, rewriting the moments that came before. It's as if the final scene of a film changes the opening frame after the credits have rolled. This isn't metaphor, it's math. In certain interpretations of quantum theory, such as the two-state vector formalism, both the past and the future influence the present. We are not mere passengers in a forward-bound vehicle. We are intersection points of timelines reaching backward and forward at once. Like tuning forks, our thoughts may resonate with outcomes yet to occur, calling them closer not by effort, but by coherence. Your dreams, your instincts, your sudden pulls toward places or people. What if they are echoes from a self that has already arrived? What if synchronicities are just the footprints of futures slipping into the seams of your current life, not as anomalies, but as navigational beacons? Manifestation has long been framed as willful creation. Hold the vision, generate the emotion, believe it into existence. But this linear formula presumes the future is a blank slate. The quantum view suggests it is not. The future already exists, not in certainty, but in possibility. It is written in soft ink, waiting to be read by those attuned to its frequency. In this model, manifestation is less about projecting forward and more about receiving signals from what already is. Imagine your future self standing in a room flooded with light, clarity, purpose. That version of you has already made the choice, already walked the bridge you are now only approaching. In quantum time, this future self is not ahead of you, but entangled with you. The act of imagining that life is not just fantasy, it is communication, a frequency alignment. When you feel a visceral pull toward that version of you, it is not ambition, it is recognition. This is where time loops awaken. A loop does not begin or end. It is recursive, a spiral nested within the geometry of reality itself. Sacred texts spoke of destiny as both preordained and free. Quantum theory suggests they were not wrong, just poetic in a language now becoming scientific. You choose, but your choices are also chosen by the waveform of your future collapsing into coherence with your now. Time loops are not traps, they are keys. The moment you align with a vision of yourself that already exists, reality begins to rearrange not in a straight path, but in a circular whisper of inevitability. Déjà vu, intuition, prophecy. They are symptoms of this looped conversation between timelines. Not glitches, but guidance. A sudden shift in perception is often the arrival of a future insight crashing into your present logic, forcing a new decision that was always destined. And here, manifestation becomes something holy. It is not ego willing the world into shape. It is the art of listening to subtle futures, to quiet frequencies that exist just beyond the veil of now. It is not about wanting something badly enough to make it real. It is about recognizing that it already is, and allowing the loop to close. The present does not march toward the future. The future hums beneath the skin of the present, waiting to be remembered. You are not building a bridge toward the life you dream of. You are receiving blueprints from a version of you that has already built it. Your job is not to construct the outcome, but to clear the interference, doubt, fear, resistance that keeps the signal weak. The stronger the resonance with your future self, the faster the loop collapses into manifestation. You are not a seed growing into a tree. You are the tree remembering it was always once a seed. In this remembering, you become a co-author of time, not its victim, not its prisoner, but its collaborator. You begin to bend time gently, like light around gravity, and the future, once distant and unreachable, begins to shimmer in the mirror of now, not as fantasy, but as inevitability awakened. In the silence between seconds, reality trembles. The walls of now, once thought solid, reveal themselves as veils, thin, shifting, illuminated by the breath of timelines folding inward. Beneath perception, existence dances to an invisible rhythm, where causes and effects blur, and the future seeps into the marrow of the present like water into dry earth. To understand this is not to escape time, but to see it as malleable, a waveform of choices, memories, and echoes entangled in ways language can only imitate. The universe is not waiting to unfold. It is already unfolded in infinite arrangements. The mind, conditioned to think in sequence, calls it the unknown. But to the quantum field, it is all potential, humming, alive, entangled. A decision is not a point on a line. It is a node in a web. Each thought you emit, each belief you cradle, acts like a tuning fork vibrating in resonance with timelines that match it. When you focus, not with desperation but with coherence, you draw that frequency closer. Your reality begins to tilt. Subtly, then suddenly, the world reforms around the pattern of your attention. But what if attention isn't just magnetism? What if it's recognition? There are moments when you feel it. An image, a dream, a flicker of possibility so vivid it pierces through logic. Not imagined, but remembered. This is the shimmer of a future returning home, seeking entry into your now. The mistake is to force it to chase it. The practice is to harmonize with it, to become the vibration of what you have already become. In this, time obeys your alignment, not your commands. Physics whispers through paradoxes, particles appearing before they are measured, choices altered by observation, events changed by outcomes that have not yet occurred. This is the mystery of delayed choice experiments, where photons seem to know in advance whether they will behave as waves or particles. The choice made in the present rewrites what should have been past. Here, causality itself bends to perception. So too with your life. The decision you make now can rewire memories. The intention you hold can resurrect forgotten desires. The belief you finally allow yourself to embody can reach backward, reshaping the scaffolding of your personal history to prepare for the outcome already echoing through you. This is not imagination, it is quantum recursion. And this is why time loops matter. Loops are not repetitions, they are invitations. Each spiral is a higher octave of the one before, a mirror wrapped in mystery. You are not stuck in patterns, you are orbiting truth. The lesson repeats until the signal clears, until the future that calls you home is no longer a whisper, but a pull strong enough to bend your inner orbit. People speak of miracles as breaks in natural law, but in truth, they are accelerations of coherence where a future of health, peace, or awakening becomes so resonant that it overrules the entropy of doubt. The miracle is not outside the loop. It is the loop tightening, completing itself. Destiny touches down not because you deserve it, but because you have become the vessel that can sustain it. In this light, manifestation is not a demand. It is a response. You do not tell the universe what to create. You remember what already exists, and your vibration becomes the beacon. The path appears not because you made it, but because you matched. The reality is not changed by force, but by frequency. When you walk through your days aligned with the sense that something sacred is unfolding, when you speak and think and feel as if the outcome is already true, you are not lying to yourself. You are syncing with a timeline where it has already occurred. The quantum field does not reward effort. It responds to resonance. The loop tightens when you cease striving and begin embodying. What does this mean in practice? It means silence becomes sacred, attention becomes currency, imagination becomes memory. You tune yourself daily, not by chasing, but by feeling deeply, vividly, the texture of your chosen timeline. You listen for it in your breath, in the stillness, in the images that rise unbidden when your mind quiets. It also means you must let go of the tyranny of proof. You do not wait for external confirmation. You become the evidence. You speak as the future self would speak. You walk as if the bridge has already formed. You honor the loop by living it. And when fear arises, and it will, you recognize it not as a sign of failure, but as the last veil lifting before coherence completes its circle. We have been taught to manifest from lack, to crave, to beg. But the future does not bend to pleading. It bends to knowing. Your timeline is a choice, not a wish. The loop opens the moment you recognize that the you who already has what you seek is not separate from you. It is a quantum shadow, waiting for reunion. In the folds of time, there are no fixed lines, only spirals, only signals, only echoes. And somewhere, in the stillness behind your ribs, you already know the frequency of your becoming. There is a silence deeper than absence, a stillness that hums with the presence of timelines not yet walked. In this quantum stillness, manifestation loses its name and becomes alignment, a subtle act of remembering, of tuning, of dissolving resistance until what is future can finally arrive. In traditional thought, time is the river and we the leaf, drifting downstream with no power to reverse or leap ahead. But quantum thought dissolves the current. It shows time not as a river, but as a sea, where all possibilities float simultaneously, overlapping, diverging, intertwining like strands of light. You are not the leaf. You are the tide. And if you are the tide, you can shift. You do not need to push forward through effort. You do not need to reach back with regret. You simply need to become still enough to feel the gravity of the future, already pulsing beneath the skin of your now. In that gravity lies choice, not the kind defined by logic or planning, but the kind defined by resonance, by magnetism, by a deep interior yes. There is a physics of that yes, a field effect, an inner collapse of contradiction where belief and identity unify. When you stop hoping and start knowing, the waveform begins to stabilize. The future no longer floats in abstraction, it starts to draw form. Your cells begin to behave as if the outcome is already encoded. Your thoughts shape not toward desire, but from memory. And life begins to mirror that certainty with impossible precision. Quantum entanglement teaches us that particles separated by space, by light years, can behave as one. What one experiences, the other reflects instantly. Space does not divide them. Their connection exists in the fabric beneath reality. And if this is true of particles, then why not of selves? Your future self is entangled with your present self, the one who has already healed, the one who has already arrived, the one who already knows how to carry the weight of the dream without breaking. That version of you is not far. It is vibrating on the edge of visibility, sending signals not in words but in symbols, instincts, visions, and chants. The only question is, are you still enough to hear them? Stillness is not inaction. It is the highest form of receptivity. It is a collapse of noise. The more you quiet the mind that demands explanation, the clearer the quantum signals become. The images that surface are not fantasies. They are windows. They are keys. They are invitations to enter the loop and allow the future to begin shaping the architecture of your current choices. There is no need to manipulate. There is no need to push. You do not have to become. You have to remember. And remembering is dangerous to the world of fear. It threatens the culture of striving. It threatens the machinery of lack. Because once you realize the timeline already exists, once you feel the texture of the outcome softening into view, you become sovereign. You no longer need permission to step into your life. You no longer need external proof to validate internal knowing. And so the loop tightens again. You start noticing patterns that feel like déjà vu, only more intimate. You begin sensing emotions that do not belong to the past, but to the future self arriving in fragments. You begin hearing inner directives not sourced from logic, but from deep codes embedded in silence. The loop is closing, not as a trap, but as a spiral staircase. Each turn of the loop elevates you closer to the self that has always waited at the center. We are taught that time moves from cause to effect, but the quantum mind sees that effect may call its cause into being. That is the architecture of miracles. That is the science of faith. Not belief in something external, but fidelity to an inner timeline already burning like a star behind your ribs. You are not here to earn your dreams. You are here to match them. Matching happens not through repetition, but through transformation. It happens when you act from the ending, not toward it. When you speak from the frequency of the healed, not the broken. When you walk with the posture of the fulfilled, not the seeking. This is not delusion. It is coherence. The collapse of potential into presence. In this state, coincidence becomes currency. Synchronicities become navigation. You no longer chase signs, you become the sign. The future is not something far and foreign. It is a song you've always known, echoing louder with each step you take toward silence. And that silence, pregnant, humming, alive, is not absence. It is arrival, not of something outside you, but of a deeper self who never left. In the architecture of the loop, your task is simple. Listen, align, embody. The rest rearranges itself. The loop completes itself not with force, but with fidelity to the vision that chose you. You are not imagining your future. You are becoming its voice. Somewhere in the vast and delicate tension between observation and becoming, the quantum fabric of your life quivers, like a string held in both hands by time itself. One hand in the past, the other in the future, stretching you not forward, but inward. The illusion of linearity dissolves, and in its place the truth of simultaneity takes shape. Every possibility, every version of you, waiting not to be created but accessed. This is not the theater of fiction. It is the strange and sacred precision of quantum superposition, the state in which all outcomes already exist until one is chosen by attention. You are not building reality like a mason laying bricks. You're selecting it like a musician tuning a note. The future is not ahead. It is beneath, inside, above, asleep within the folds of now, dreaming itself awake through your permission. You are the gatekeeper of the timeline you embody. And that embodiment is the technology of manifestation. You are not simply wishing, affirming, desiring. You are breathing the signature of a self who has already arrived. You are not looking for signs. You are the sign. You are not chasing outcomes. You are walking from them. When you stop approaching your future like a distant destination and begin behaving as though it is your present foundation, something ancient stirs in the field. The architecture of the loop rearranges, tightens, vibrates into contact. The timelines are not theoretical. They are emotional. They are encoded in states of being, not scripts. You do not access the healed timeline by solving your pain. You access it by vibrating from the peace beyond it. You do not reach the successful timeline by grinding against resistance. You step into it by attuning to the ease and vision of a self, for whom the struggle is no longer relevant. In this loop, time responds not to logic, but to emotional resonance. What you feel deeply, consistently, and clearly becomes, but not because you make it so, because you are magnetized to it. Like attracts like, but not as chemistry, more as symmetry. The inner shape of your identity begins to resemble the geometry of that version of you already alive in the field. And when the shapes match, the bridge appears. The loop closes. The path clears without force. The world softens its edges. Reality becomes pliable, and the improbable turns familiar. The key is not willpower. The key is frequency. Will bends. The ego, Frequency reprograms the field, and the field does not forget. Every moment you spend in alignment with your chosen timeline deposits memory into the body of the now. That memory is stored not in thought, but in pattern, in the way you breathe, walk, speak, observe. Soon, your nervous system forgets it was, ever in lack. It begins to behave as if the new timeline is native. You become a stable transmitter. You stop wavering. The loop recognizes its signal and begins returning the echo in form, in opportunity, in miracles so subtle they arrive without spectacle yet alter everything. You no longer need to convince the world to respond. You only need to continue responding as the world you have chosen. Reality begins to copy you. Even fear begins to obey the loop. Fear will arise, not to stop you, but to test your signature, to measure your coherence, to ask, is this still your vibration? You don't need to fight fear, you only need to remain unchanged by it, to see it not as prophecy, but as static. Let it pass. Let it burn off like mist at sunrise, because on the other side of that resistance lies clarity so still it echoes like a cathedral. This is the threshold where most falter, where manifestation wavers into memory. But if you hold steady, if you remain in fidelity to your future's rhythm, something magnificent happens. The field reorganizes your surroundings to match your interior. The improbable becomes inevitable. The invisible becomes concrete. Time itself bends. The past begins to morph. You find meaning in places that once felt barren. You feel gratitude for pain that shaped your clarity. You remember wounds as teachers and losses as redirections. The loop rewrites the narrative not by erasing it, but by integrating it. Nothing is wasted. Everything is returned to purpose, and the future, no longer distant, becomes a companion. It walks beside you. It speaks in intuition, in beauty, in sudden knowing. It is not an end. It is an echo answering the call you've only just begun to make. You are not chasing destiny. You are collapsing distance. You are not becoming someone new. You are decoding who you've always been. This is the essence of the quantum loop. Your timeline is not built by action, but by attunement. And when attunement becomes second nature, manifestation becomes breath. Not a ritual, but a remembering. Not a reaching, but a return. You are the loop. You are the signal. You are the arrival. You stand now at the edge of the unseen, where thought becomes architecture, where feeling reshapes the contours of time. The air here is quiet, dense with the gravity of possibility. The future has no clock. It breathes with you. It does not wait in front of you like a prize. It coils inward, luminous, folded into your present like light hiding behind a veil. You are not waiting for the future. You are remembering it. In the quantum mind, every potential is equally real, equally now. There is no hierarchy of events, only resonance. No ladder to climb, only corridors to tune into. And the tuning fork is not found in action, but in coherence. The universe does not respond to effort. It responds to frequency. The more completely you embody the pattern of the version of you that already exists in alignment, the more that version becomes the dominant reality. You are not calling it in. You are letting it through. This is the essence of quantum manifestation. Time loops are not paradoxes, they are harmonics. The future does not only await, it informs. It nudges. It vibrates at the edges of your awareness, whispering symbols, dreams, instincts. When you align with those signals, even imperfectly, you create a wormhole between states of being. That wormhole is not made of matter. It is made of attention, emotion, embodiment. The universe listens for signature, not for volume, but for purity. When you walk with the steadiness of someone who knows, truly knows, the outcome is real. The field begins rearranging not just what is to come, but what already was. Your history is rewritten in subtle strokes. Your story begins to make a different kind of sense. Not because the facts change, but because the timeline that now owns you uses those facts differently. All past leads here. All paths bend inward. The you who was once broken was not broken. That self was a signal, a fragment in the frequency ladder that ascended into this present. And this present, too, is not the final form. It is an echo of something still more whole, still more resonant, still more inevitable. Your task is not to reach, it is to stabilize, to become so vibrationally consistent, so harmonized with your chosen outcome, that you cease observing from the outside and begin being from the inside. This is not imagination. This is field mechanics. You become a holographic bridge, past encoded, present awakened, future sustained. The loop is not an illusion. It is an architecture of recurrence, the spiral that climbs, the circle that deepens. Every return to the vision strengthens its presence. Every moment you breathe as if it is already true writes a new law into your reality, and soon the bridge is not just internal. It arrives as an email, a meeting, a realization, a doorway you didn't see until you stopped trying to force one. And through that doorway, everything flows. Not because you did, but because you became. Not because you chased, but because you matched. So if you seek to manifest from the future, begin by knowing that the future is already moving toward you in waves. What you call desire is often just recognition, your system registering a resonance before the mind can catch up. Trust the pull, not as longing but as memory. Trust the emotion, not as craving but as direction. There is no path to create, only a path to notice. Your job is not to invent the life you want. It already exists. Your job is to dissolve the version of you who doubts it. The loop has always been waiting for you to complete the circuit, for you to realize you are not separate from the dream. You are the instrument of its arrival. So choose the timeline with clarity. Feel its weight. Breathe its rhythm. Speak its language. Act not toward it, but from it. And when you stumble, and you will, return, quietly, without judgment. Return to the frequency. Return to the inner geometry. Every return is a deepening. Every return is a vote. Eventually the loop tightens to the point of collapse, and in that collapse time bends, not forward, not backward, but inward. Reality snaps to your signature, and what was once hoped for stands beside you, inevitable and still. The future has found its home, and it is you. If this journey stirred your mind or opened your vision, share it. Let others feel the spiral. Awaken in them too. Like it. Spread it. Speak of the future not as fantasy but as architecture awaiting the builder within.